Okay, so here's a question to start us off. What truly defines a civilization? Is it, just its raw power, its wealth, or is it maybe something deeper, something about its people, how they connect?
That's a big question. And
Yeah,
it's perfect for today because we're diving deep into Westhaven.
right.
It's this fascinating community, often described as an emotional hearth,
Mm,
and they live by this core idea, roots before branches.
exactly. So, our mission today really is to unpack what makes Westhaven tick, what makes it so unique. We've got some great source material describing their way of life.
Hmm.
And we want you listening in to sort of discover this society that's built so strongly on connection, resilience, emotional intelligence, really.
Yeah, and maybe see what insights it offers us, for our own lives.
Totally. So let's unpack this. Where do we start? The land.
Let's start with the foundation, the land itself. So
Mhm.
the sources place Westhaven in the west. It covers about 8,200 square miles and home to about 8 million people. Its defining color, green. Think rolling hills, rich farmland, old gray forests, all sitting near a sort of mid-range mountain chain.
You can almost picture it. And that green sounds like it's really shaped by the climate, too. Humid, temperate.
Exactly. 4 distinct seasons. You get these wet springs, bringing everything to life, then lush summers, really vibrant autumns,
Yeah, the colors.
and then snowy, but generally moderate winters. That closeness to the sea plays a big role, bringing moisture, those storms.
And it sounds like nature isn't just there, it's woven into who they are.
Deeply. Take their plants, for instance, the starleaf trees. They have these broad leaves with natural gold veins running through them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're not just pretty, they're like central to their art, their symbols. And then there's hearthroot, this spicy tuber, real staple food.
Earthroot. Okay.
And things like moss ivy, which birds nest in, it symbolizes comfort home.
It's not just the plants either, right? The
Yeah.
animals are important too.
Absolutely. They're part of the folklore, part of daily life.
Yeah.
You've got Glen badgers seen as territorial but wise in their stories.
Wise badgers, I like it.
Uh-huh. And song rabbits, their chirps mean spring is here. Even the hill bears, hibernating bears they feature in autumn festivals, they're characters in the story of Westhaven.
And does this all show up in how they build things, their architecture?
Oh, definitely. It reflects that reverence for nature and community. Think timber-framed cottages, often with those nice wraparound porches. Communal barns are huge, real social centers.
Cozy.
Very. Settlements tucked into valleys, shingled roofs, cobbled roads. Big focus on hearths, gardens. It's all designed for connection, really. Sources mention inspirations like Vermont farmsteads, maybe hobbit villages.
Oh, I can see that, like the Shire meets early America.
Kind of, yeah, that cozy rural feel. And it perfectly embodies that core philosophy you mentioned earlier.
Roots before branches.
Exactly. It's not just a nice phrase. It's a conscious choice. Stability, connection, long-term thinking over just quick growth.
Which feels pretty different from a lot of places today.
It really does. They have other sayings, too, like a quiet heart grows,
Mm-hmm.
which is about inner peace, or plant what you want to see rise. Very intentional.
I like that.
And even their slang shows their values. Calling someone sap for brains
Yeah.
is not mean, it's affectionate, like saying they're naive or tenderhearted. Vulnerability seen as gentle.
That's lovely.
Or pass the basket, an invitation. Share your story, share your burdens, like passing food at a table.
Or turn the soil.
Yeah. For letting go, starting fresh. It ties emotional release right back to the land, to farming cycles.
That's quite beautiful, actually. So how does this deep-rooted, emotionally tuned society translate into, like, the everyday? Food, for example.
Ah, the food. It tastes like their land, basically.
Yeah.
Earthy, a little sweet, often with a hint of smoke. You can almost smell that hearthroot stew
Mm.
simmering away. Or imagine a starly salad with some kind of berry dressing.
Yeah.
And they have these hearty hillbear pies, especially for autumn festivals.
Hillbear pies?
Yeah.
Are they actually made with?
Oh, no. It's a name, likely referencing the season or maybe the legend. Usually filled with root vegetables, berries, maybe some grain.
Okay, phew. Good to know.
Definitely. Key crops are things like that. Hearthroot, hillberries, mushrooms, cabbage, orchard fruits, grains. They drink smoke bark cider fermented, made with moss ivy bark and apples,
Interesting mix.
and lots of foraged herbs, spiced broths. Very connected to what's around them.
And their clothes? I'm guessing practical, given the climate?
Very practical, but meaningful too. Everyday stuff includes sturdy wool tunics, trousers often patched showing that repair culture.
Right, sustainability built in.
Exactly. Woven cloaks, often with patterns dyed from trees, rainproof leather capes, mud boots essential for those wet seasons.
But there's more to it than just
Oh,
practicality.
yes.
Yeah.
Ceremonial wear is quite something. Leaf-draped shawls, deep forest green robes, hand-painted masks for festivals. They literally wear the forest. And
Wow.
maybe the most striking thing? Generational family pendants. Passed down, often containing a pinch of soil or a seed from their ancestral land.
Soil or seeds. That's powerful. Talk about embodying roots before branches.
It's a very physical link to their past and their place.
In the music, what does Westhaven sound like?
It sounds like. The heart, like you said earlier, genres are really evocative. Campfire folk songs, slow ballads played on strings, harmonies that change with the seasons, kids doing ring dances.
What instruments do they use?
Things made from their environment, mostly. Wood harps, pan flutes, hand drums, shakers made from acorns. They even have singing stones, carved stones from creeks that resonate.
Singing stones.
Yeah, and fiddle-like instruments made from that starleaf wood. It's like the forest itself is making music.
Amazing. And the themes, what are they singing about?
Everything matters to them. Family, community, quiet sorrow, acknowledging sadness is important, seasonal changes, memory, roots,
It
healing.
all ties together, doesn't it? The land, the philosophy, the art, the music.
It's incredibly integrated. It really paints a picture of a society built on connection.
Which brings us to their social fabric. How does a society function when it's built like that? You mentioned their class system isn't based on wealth.
Right, it's non-hierarchical, more relational. Respect comes from contribution, not status. So you have roles like elder growers, experienced farmers, counselors. They have quiet authority because of their wisdom, their history.
Not because of a title they inherited.
Exactly. Then there are craftsfolk and keepers. That's most people. Their influence comes from what they give the baker, the weaver, the storyteller.
What about people who don't settle down?
They're called wanderwefs, viewed with a kind of cautious respect. Their independence is acknowledged. And there's a ceremonial role, the soil marked.
Soil mark.
Someone who's endured hardship, maybe left and returned. Their scars, literal or metaphorical, are seen as sources of wisdom, resilience made visible. And the key is, people can shift between these roles. It's fluid.
That fluidity seems to extend to families, too. You said a multi-rooted.
Yeah. Think intergenerational homesteads, but also neighbors who are like kin. Terms like god siblings, harvest aunts, elder spouses. These non-romantic partnerships for raising kids or caring for elders.
Elder spouses.
Yeah,
That challenges the typical nuclear family idea quite a bit.
it really does. Child rearing is communal. Kids have mentors all over the community. It builds this wide support network,
And how do they track lineage if it's not strictly blood?
often through those pendants we mentioned, or sometimes dedicated plots in a community garden. A living link. They have a special adoption ceremony called the second planting.
Second planting.
Welcoming a new person, child or adult, into the community. Gifts of soil, seed, a song circle. Symbolizes putting down new roots.
That's beautiful.
And maybe the most unique structure is the bonded household. Groups of maybe 5 to 10 people commit to living and working together, raising kids together. Regardless of romance or blood ties, it creates these incredibly resilient units focused on shared purpose.
Wow. That's deeply intentional community building. And their customs must reflect this focus on emotion and connection.
Absolutely. Greetings, for example, touching palms or hand over the heart, and the blessing, may your roots hold.
A grounding.
It feels solid.
Meals are sacred moments. The youngest person lights a hearth candle. The oldest poses a reflective question for the table. It invites sharing, vulnerability,
But gently, it sounds like.
very gently. Emotional expression is valued, but always invited, never forced. They have quiet circles, just sitting together in silence, offering presence if someone's struggling.
That's powerful. What about big life moments, coming of age?
They have the first planting. A young person tends a seed all the way to harvest. It symbolizes taking responsibility, planning for the future, connecting personal growth to nature's cycles.
And even death is handled differently.
Yes. Burials often happen beneath fruit trees or in wildflower groves. Simple stones carved with a favorite saying, not usually a name. It's about memory becoming part of life, part of growth.
A continuum. Exactly. Yeah. And that phrase, pass the basket, comes up again here. It's their way of inviting people to share grief, share burdens during hard times. Collective resilience in action.
It makes sense that this deep emotional intelligence would shape how they govern themselves too.
It flows right into it. Their government system is called the seasonal table. It's a rotating council.
Seasonal table. How does that work?
4 caretakers, elected for just 1 year. Each represents a seasonal domain: growth for spring, labor for summer, memory for autumn, and rest for winter.
So leadership is tied to the natural cycle, and it rotates. Less about permanent power, more about stewardship.
Precisely. And decisions, made by consensus usually, or they use a quiet vote.
Quite, but
Yeah, people place stones, often different colors or textures, into carved bowls. It allows for anonymous but clear expression of feeling or preference without direct confrontation. It preserves emotional safety.
that's fascinating. But how do they avoid getting stuck if everyone has to agree or if views really differ strongly?
Good question. It's not about speed for them. Slowness is valued. But they also have a permanent role, the Green Heart Archivist, who keeps records and institutional memory. And influence works differently. No political parties.
Okay, so how does policy actually get shaped?
Through influential circles, based on respect and tradition, there's the Hearthkeeper's Ring, mostly elders, often women, holding deep moral weight. Their wisdom guides ethical choices.
Like a council of elders, but focused on the hearth.
Sort of, yeah. Then the green hands farmers, foragers, they advocate for ecological balance, especially influential during spring and summer decisions.
Makes sense. Who else?
The Storycrafters Circle. These are the bars, historians. They're seen as the region's conscience, preserving memory, sharing truth, sometimes difficult ones, through stories.
Using narrative as influence.
Exactly. And the path wardens, they travel, mediate disputes, carry messages. They ensure communication flows between communities. Crucially, these groups don't really fight for power. Influence is wielded through dialogue, sharing meals, symbolic actions. It's persuasion and trust, not conflict.
A completely different political landscape. And this flows into justice, too. You mentioned no police force.
That's right. Zero formal police. Justice relies on community mediation, ritual accountability, and, interestingly, communal memory, what the community collectively remembers about events and character.
So how are conflicts resolved?
Path wardens often mediate first. If it's more serious, it goes to a caretaker circle. They might hold a circle judgment.
Circle judgment.
Everyone involved gets to speak, share their perspective. The goal is collective understanding, finding a resolution together. For really tough cases, they might use conflict scrolls.
Conflict scrolls.
Details are written down, the scroll is sealed, then opened later when emotions have cooled. Allows for more objective reflection. The whole system leans heavily towards restorative justice.
Making amends, healing the harm, rather than just punishment.
Exactly. Offenders are expected to repair relationships, contribute back. Exile is incredibly rare, and even then, it's usually conditional, with the hope of eventual return. Because the belief is justice should aim to bring people back into the community, not just push them out, rerouting them.
Roots before branches. Again, it really permeates everything, even the economy.
Especially the economy. It's
Yeah.
built on balance and emotional value, not just profit. Key industries, agriculture, foraging that hearthroot, hillberries, sustainably harvested.
Right.
Herbal medicine is big too. Teas, salves, and they specialize in emotional tonics. Fits their focus, right?
It really does. What else?
Artisanal goods, weaving, carving, especially acorn carving, often with little stories or blessings etched in, and things like that. Smoke bark cider, jams, preserves.
Do they trade much with outsiders?
They do, but carefully. They only export what's extra after their own community's needs are met. It reinforces that idea of abundance through balance, not just constant extraction for maximum profit.
And they have this thing called emotional hospitality.
Yeah. It's not quite tourism, but outsiders often visit for seasonal sabbaticals, time for reflection, healing. Westhavenians host them warmly. It's an exchange, but more about connection than commerce.
And their currency. It's not just money, is it?
Not entirely. They use outside coin when needed, but internally, it's a blend. Barter, gifting, and story-valued trade.
Story value trade.
They also use trade tokens, little wood or stone discs you get for community service, exchangeable for goods or help. It's like local favor banking.
Okay.
And seasonal markets, exchange circles, where trade is based on mutual agreement, symbolic value, not just fixed prices. But the most unique thing,
Heart marks. Heart marks. Tell me about those.
they're handwritten notes, expressing gratitude, sharing a lesson learned from someone. They aren't currency like coins, but collecting a bundle of heart marks, that's seen as real wealth. Social wealth is deeply respected, often valued more than money.
Wow. So your richness is measured by the positive impact you've had on others, documented in these notes.
Exactly. It completely flips the script on what value means. It's about connection, wisdom shared, kindness acknowledged.
That's profound. How does this affect how work is organized? No traditional guilds, you said.
No, it's organized by care through co-ops.
Yeah.
The Green Hands Loop for farmers, the Hearth Rights for builders, and everyone gets a chance to apprentice with them, learn basic building skills.
Community skills.
Right. The Stew Mother Circle, they cook community meals, but also act as emotional guides, offering support. The Men Spinners handle textiles, focusing on repair and reuse. That sustainability piece again.
Mending and spinning. Practical and symbolic.
And then the Quiet Hands. These are the emotional caretakers. Grief guide, people who sing lullabies, listeners during crises. Their work is seen as vital labor, just as important as farming or building.
So value isn't just placed on physical output.
Not at all. Work assignments consider a person's capacity, their emotional state, their season of life, and rest. Rest is not a luxury, but a respected phase of labor. That's a direct quote from the sources.
A respected phase of labor. That challenges so much about modern work culture.
It really does. It's all incredibly intentional, prioritizing well-being.
Yeah.
And their spirituality follows suit, very intimate, very practical.
Not based on rigid doctrines.
No, it's a folk spiritual tradition,
Right.
rooted in seasonal spirits, ancestor memory, emotional transformation. It's about lived experience, connection.
Who do they worship or connect with?
They see deities more as companions. There's Elwyn, the hearth mother warmth, emotional care. Rowan, the turning change, loss, but healthy loss. The silent root, a genderless force for grief, memory, and the four winds as seasonal messengers.
And no big temples.
No, they tend to shrine gardens instead. Little sacred spots, often in nature or homes. Worship is about tending, listening, emotional honesty.
And no priests either.
No formal priesthood. Spiritual roles rotate based on calling. You might have hearth guides who help with births or offer comfort. Green voices leading planting songs or telling community stories. Grave seeders facilitating mourning circles. Dream tenders helping interpret symbolic dreams.
So spiritual support is woven right into the community fabric.
Exactly. And they're careful about burnout. Caretakers take quiet Sabbaths, time off to rest and recharge emotionally.
That seems crucial. What about rituals?
Very intimate, sensory. Candle circles for sharing affirmations or confessions safely. Seed letters writing worries or hopes, burying them with a seed to symbolize growth through vulnerability. Tea blessings for nonverbal support, just sharing quiet presence over tea.
Simple, but powerful. And bigger festivals.
Tied to the seasons, of course. Rooting Day in spring for new beginnings. The Gathering Hollow at harvest, big feast, story circles. The Frost Fast in winter in time of collective silence looking inward. And Rain Waking celebrating the first spring storm, seen as emotional renewal.
It sounds like their worship really is about tending, listening, and living in rhythm with the heart and soil.
That sums it up perfectly. It's active, grounded, deeply felt.
And even their approach to defense. It sounds gentle somehow.
Gentle but strong, yeah. Fortifications blend right into nature. Hollow holds, hidden shelters dug into hills. Living walls, thick hedges for concealment. Watch cottages disguised as normal homes. Even signal gardens using flowers for coded messages.
Clever. Using the land itself.
Their main defenses are disruption and concealment, not walls and weapons in the traditional sense.
So no standing army.
None. But adults get basic defense training. They have a voluntary force, the Green Line, that trains seasonally, often during festivals. They use repurposed tools, axes, bows.
Repurposed tools. Interesting.
Roles include hearth wardens protecting communities, path guards as scouts, and burden bearers non-combatants focused on logistics, especially getting children and elders to safety first. That's always the priority. Force is only for protection, never retaliation.
So what's their strategy if attacked?
Delay, confuse, evacuate. Guerrilla tactics using the terrain, leading enemies into swamps, using sound to disorient. They might even stage false festivals as decoys.
Misdirection.
And crucially, they use emotional intelligence as tactic. Diplomacy first, always. Offering sanctuary to defectors, trying to undermine enemy morale through compassion, disrupting their expectations of war.
That's a very different way to think about defense.
Their motto says it all. We endure by becoming unseen. And another key idea, withdrawal is not defeat. Sometimes whole villages just disappear into the landscape only to reappear later. It's quiet resilience.
Based on wisdom, not just might. Are there stories about this?
Myths.
Oh, yes.
Quiet epics. The smoke that sang about a choir who's singing disarmed invaders with sorrow and beauty. The Last Stew. a cook holding off soldiers with food and stories until they lost the will to fight.
Wow.
And the green line never breaks, not about fighting, but about villagers linking arms in peaceful defiance. And maybe the most poetic part. When conflict ends, defense tools are often turned into garden stakes, wind chimes.
So peace literally grows from what protected them.
Exactly. That cyclical transformation again, it perfectly captures their whole philosophy.
Yeah.
It really does. Okay, before we wrap up, just a quick touch on names and titles. They probably reflect these values too.
Absolutely. Lots of names: male, female, unisex, echo, nature, Linden, Rowan, Elowen, Fern. Surnames too, whether common or house names, often linked to roles or nature. Hearthwood, Clover, Leaf Warden, it reinforces that connection.
Grounded in their world.
And titles aren't about power, but about respect earned. Hearthwarden, Root Keeper, Quiet Heart. Even epithets people might gain, like the Gentle Root or Keeper of Quiet, highlight character, inner life connection, the things they truly value.
So reflecting back on our dive, Westhaven really emerges as this incredible emotional hearth.
Yeah.
A society where the connection to nature is profound, where emotional intelligence isn't just valued, it guides everything, where community care is the foundation, and hierarchy takes a back seat to contribution.
It's a place where roots before branches isn't just a catchphrase, it's how they live. The heart, the emotional core, it's truly central to everything. Which leaves us with a final thought, maybe for you listening. In our world, often so focused on, fast growth, individual success, material stuff, what can we learn from Westhaven? What can their philosophy of roots before branches, their deep understanding of an emotional hearth offer us about community, about resilience, about, true well-being? What might it even look like to cultivate social wealth through something like heart marks in our own lives? Right. Redefining what it really means to be rich.
Something to think about.